Okay, I have less than 6 minutes to answer questions for my course, the graduate seminar in Rhetoric, Pedagogy, and Science Writing. So I'm going to try and speak as quickly as possible while covering all the questions. I'll list them first, of course, and I'll try not to digress too much. You'll have to excuse that the video will just be me speaking in front of this. All of my work and efforts went into the video that I made right before this, and that's been about 8 hours to do. So I got kind of lazy. Sorry. Also, the music is going to be the same as in my last video. I got lazy there as well. But, sorry for both. So another thing to keep in mind, to keep myself as concise and short as possible, I am going to have to read off of my notes. So sorry for that as well. So a lot of the time my eyes will not be focusing on the camera, but on my device. So question 1. Discuss in your own words the foundational concepts of the course. The foundations are built around examining the working of multiple disciplines, observing how these disciplines came to an overall consensus over what constituted as evidence and adequate representation, as well as practicing different types of reading methodologies, all while strengthening writing skills across different disciplines, and how to learn the best ways of interacting with different types of audiences. To this end, writing that stems around the sciences are poured over while students become mindful analyzers of various formal pieces. The methodologies, as mentioned earlier, stem from social science fields, or science social fields, and include utilizing thinking aloud strategies or think aloud strategies as a way to record the thoughts one has over particular work. And then later use analysis skills to examine how reading practices change over the course of a semester. Ideally, the students in this class should be able to explore different scientific concepts and be able to explain these things across disciplines. Super wordy, isn't it? Apply the concepts to Baseman's reading using examples of quotes from the actual reading. This one's going to be fun. So Baseman's book, Shaping Written Knowledge, this is pretty much a study of how criteria for good writing in experimental science came into being. This type of study is important because of how much change is instigated through the findings of science. Science is a discipline when there is no rhetoric, well, at least no obvious rhetoric. But to members of these fields, data and findings are reported as objectively as possible, so terms that are used are very specific and have to be concise even if they're repetitive. The genre of science, of course, does not exist separately of its history, so a lot of the book focuses on some of the general institutionalizations of certain aspects of knowing and representing. There's a certain framework for community genre making. Also, these things do have rhetoric with them as well. The science paper has its own form of rhetoric, even if it's not readily apparent. Not using the correct terminology will just confuse readers and hinder your message. So an example from this work, though, is between Newton and somebody else he was answering letters to, which was, in this example, Hooke, over the differences they had in white light being able to be spread into multiple colors, and that the colors could, of course, have other colors within them. So, in this manner, Newton has presented a general issue, reduced it to an empirical question, then organized the experimental material so as to present a direct line of reasoning tying empirical to the general. He tried many different appeals, Newton did, to present his findings to other people and to convince them of various things. Then, much later, there's discussion from reviewers over the writing and reading styles of those who don't inherently belong in a discipline. So the way a paper is phrased tells you if he or she is of this epoch and knows what he is talking about, or she. Often you look at papers whose wording is wrong, ellipses, comma. Sometimes it is really so strange you know something is odd. QTD in 248. And the other one was from 109. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So apply Baseman to at least 2 of the readings in the course. This one's a toughie. So I'm going to be lazy. First up, what a surprise, we have Borashi and Reef's Rhetorical Genre Studies, and this essay is all about genre and its studies. The main argument here is that genres are forms of situated cognition, and there are various elements that go into each genre, its systems, methodologies, and so on, and this article itself seems like an extension of the Baseman piece with less use of the word genre. The other is by Xing Hu and Shu Song Gao, probably botched that, and it's titled Using Think Aloud Protocol and Self-Regulated Reading Research. It got the wording title right. And this one is similar to Baseman in an odd way, by using scientific modes of representation, such as the inclusion of sections labeled introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion, over analyzing studies done for humanities and social sciences, but also it's similar because I hate it too. So, apply Bayesian and the foundational concepts to your discipline. I have to really go now. So, as Bayesian is/was an English instructor, I don't want to look it up. The foundations that he brings up are already heavily involved in my discipline of rhetoric and composition. Of course, various writings have looked at the institutionalization of first-year composition courses. So we're talking about like the 1880s, where people were coming in and professors are angry because these students don't know how to write. So then they had to introduce freshman composition courses, or they were under various names at the time, to teach them how to do it. But which is just amazing because people aren't bad writers. We in the profession make writers by viewing them as bad. There is constantly a battle of language, where the appropriate words are used with the correct genres, the right cadence is applied to the ideal audience. Our essays are tight, highly formal, and well organized. Vindication is won when some chastise and blockade students through gatekeeping methods, as others declare, "All must do it too." That's a whole other thing. So apply Bayesian and the foundational concepts to your own experience and future as a student. Yeah, so for my experience, I realize I have never thought of the ways that truths become presented as truths, nor have I thought about why qualitative data, quantitative data, hypotheses, methodologies, and various other modes of interaction in specific fields of study even have certain layouts or templates involved in their processes. These forms of uptakes of certain genre sets, in other words, with the genre, are all things that we are ready to analyze. As for my future as a student, I do find that I am now more mindful of how other practices may have come into being, and I will wonder why certain rhetorical choices are made over how information is laid out. I will now, more so, think about how this form of expression in that particular genre is more convincing than some other form. So this last one's a bit of a fun one. Reflecting your progress through the course to now. As my fields in the humanities, my progress has not been as significant as others in the class. Before the semester, however, I knew that I hated think aloud strategy. Well, now that I've done them, I know that I hate them. Here are some examples from Bayesian's reading in my wonderful speech text thoughts. This is from page 3 of my notes. Science is great success. You're not living in 2020. Understand important influences in all disciplines. Depends what you consider scientifical language. Really is it also a rhetorical process to just simply state the facts? I mean, part of having a rhetorically effective argument is reliance on your audience, and when your audience is expecting something stated plainly, well, not really plainly, but coded in a different language that is a statement of a fact, it's just as effective as something more bloated and shit. Excuse me, oops, I burped. Great note. Compare this to my type of thoughts later from page 44 of my notes. Scientific community would have come up with a way to cite other studies. Next note, Newton's solution was a powerful resource and influence of future systems of science. Next note, books and articles have become a result of the consequences of individual writers making assessments of their own perceived rhetorical situations. So my thoughts are both a little more fragmented and a tad more concise. Additionally, what I found most fascinating is how the students in the class interact with one another, especially when it comes to plotting things out or assigning duties. Either way, this is all I have time for, so I hope this answered everything clearly, possibly even to someone who's not taken the course. Sorry I couldn't make eye contact the whole time.